Meeting to order at 6:56 p.m. on August 3rd, 2017. Member James is going to give the invocation, and then we'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Well, we'll stand now.
We're going to stand for the invocation.
Right, we are.
Yes, we are. That's the right thing to do. Oh, dear Lord, we thank you for another day. We thank you for taking your loving arms and surrounding us this morning to wake us. We thank you for the rain that we got today. We've had our share, but we thank you because we know you know what we need. So we're not complaining whatsoever. We just thank you. We ask that you continue to guide us, continue to lead us, and continue to let us do what we need to do on behalf of the city of High Springs. Continue to allow us to work together without bickering with each other. We ask that you bless everyone that's here tonight and continue to guide everyone. This we ask in your name. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Chair Jones.
Here.
Vice Chair Williams. Member Jameson.
Here.
Member Evans. Absent. Member James.
Here.
And we need to do the approval of the agenda. Did everybody get the amended agenda?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I make such a motion that the agenda be approved as printed.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Passes 3-0. And we need now to approve the minutes for June 1st and July 6th. Do we need to do them separately, Angela? Oh, okay, we need to approve the minutes for June 1st and July 6th.
Such a motion.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes of June 1st and July 6th of 2017. Our first item in business is the presentation, Museum on Main Street. Christina Young.
Good evening, Christina Young. Thank you guys. Again, I wanted to stop in. It's been a year. 1 year actually this month. We were in full steam ahead with our Smithsonian Institute and being in town and our community really rocking and rolling and having a good time. And I wanted to recognize again the month of August as our Waterways Month and give back to our commissioners and Amanda for a thank you and something that we can recognize. I mean, we all have lots of memories from that time period, a lot of crazy fun times, but a couple of things that really stand out for me as the program director is just the fact that we had such a great support from our city, Amanda, the commissioners, and the whole entire community. And this is my chance to, I've had an informal saying thank you, and this is a formal thank you to all of you. Before I continue, let me get these out. Let me make sure. Do I have, oh, it did show up. So I'm going to give a couple of thank you cards out to you. Are the leader of the pack. I'm glad you're here tonight. Amanda.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Jameson, and welcome aboard. I'm
Thank
Christina
you.
Young.
Yes, thank you.
I know that you weren't involved, but at the same time, I hope you had an opportunity to
We
visit.
did.
So,
It was very nice.
Amanda, can you come up for just a minute?
Sure.
So I'm going to start with this because this is a gift to CRA and the city to start enjoying the memories. I'm going to let you go ahead and open it, even though I've got one here. So go ahead and take a minute.
Very nice.
So I took a few minutes,
Oh.
a few hours, a few days, a few hours, and I put together a memory book for the city to have on file and to recognize for future. The pictures are about 600 and something inside,
nice.
even though it was a combination of everybody contributing those pictures. We really did have a wonderful time. The actual storyline comes from the beginning to the end when we finally said goodbye. The mayor, Sue Willer, is actually quoted in here. I took the original invitation to our Florida Humanities Council and in our grant, and just the storyline that was built to bring the Smithsonian to town was an amazing journey. I know maybe some of the details have already been added into reports from CRA, but I wanted to, me personally, this is just coming from me, our Sam Viviano actually was going to come here. He was part of our cave divers exhibit and the build of that, but his health is kind of deteriorating, so he was not able to make it, but thank you is really from me, from myself as well, Sam Viviano. The community really pulled together, coming together, as you probably have seen in all of the newsletters and everything. There were over 189 partnering organizations and individuals that were involved in this event, and it's been an amazing journey for myself, but at the same time. So what I did was I put into this book a little bit about the dates and the times and the events and how many were in attendance. So you have that documentation of who actually did come for each of the events and what partnering organizations we actually worked with. I know we started with the High Springs Library, and they were just amazing. They just right away, they're like, Christine, we're on board, and by the way, this is our event date, and we're like 8 months out. So it was in January 2016. That was our very first event, partnering event. And one of the things I really cherish is the fact that how our community really did commit to our Florida Springs and our beautiful waterways around this area. So anyway, this is a contribution back from me personally, back to you guys, and to say thank you. As you look through, scroll through, enjoy over the next few months, however long it takes. It took me a little while to get it all together, but again, every organization, the amount of individuals that came through, who was involved, what they did, all actually ended up in that old schoolhouse. And a very amazing journey. A couple of things that we, I'm not sure what was reported, and in that capacity, I left up to Amanda. At the time of the transition, I took a full-time position as well. The Historical Society made some changes, so I'm actually doing this on a personal basis. But on our reporting in, we had over 5,600 people come through the actual museum, which was an amazing feat for that 6 weeks time period. And again, I don't know what's been given to you, but I wanted to just report in what I had sent into the Smithsonian and how their feedback was, we're going to use this as a what was the word I think they used, Amanda? Remember, they kind of gave us the thought of this is going to be our poster child, and this is what's going to happen from this point forward. I really enjoyed that concept, and I think that every organization that was involved in the 6 sites that were selected in the state, they all did their own thing. But I think ours is being talked about a little bit out there and being shared with everybody. I know that I actually heard individuals that had visited a couple of the other locations within the state of Florida and they all had their own individual programs that they did, and they were great, but they were different, and we really rocked. That's all I'm going to say. We really rocked. We actually did have about 11,984 people come through the community for all of the different exhibits. I tried to track as much as I could with every different organization, every different partnering event that we had. We had 4,000, let's see real quick, over 24, it was 24 states, 190 counties in the state of Florida that visited the actual museum during that time period. Wow. And I think you all might remember the cave diving markers. So we tracked those throughout the entire 6 weeks, and we're able to also track down, we had 8 countries. Now, imagine that, 8 countries visiting, but University of Florida is kind of a melting pot for that. So we actually got the word out, and it was a lot of fun to learn where they came from and visit. And one of the actual communities that was expecting the museum on Main Street actually drove up and saw what we did and took it back, and they were excited. So there was a lot of things that positively came out of this. So we could not have built that cave without the CRA funding, and I'm in debt for the experience as well, the opportunity to participate. Our Lions Club members and the Knights of Columbus and every organization that was involved were amazing. But those nights, 2 nights a week, we visited one single household and built 26 walls. So the storyline in here will be, are you serious? We're going to do how many walls? And what are we doing with all of those walls? And what? Are you sure? So you'll see a little bit of that story. You'll see how many hours, the names of the individuals that were involved with those particular installs, because that was a tremendous undertaking. And we just could not have made it without everybody that participated. We did have the Kiwanis Club that really helped us with the Smithsonian's arrival setup, blew us all away. Everything just being perfect and set up, and just making things happen with that. That I think everybody that came in and that visit, and Sue, you were there as a volunteer. Amanda, you were there. I'm not sure how often you were there as a volunteer. Mm-hmm. Everybody that came through really took their time to really visit. And that was something that I thought was really neat and learn a little bit from. And the fact that Fort White Middle School decided to bring 700 children the first week of school was pretty dedicated, in my opinion, from their part. So I thought that was an amazing event. Overall, this community is saturated with such great assets to talk about our waterways event. Our waterways, we are so passionate about protecting our springs. And so I think that the program that we provided on behalf of the Smithsonian was a wonderful project. And again, I just wanted to tell the commissioners, thank you very much for your support. So that's it. 5 minutes.
Thank you. Okay, the next item is discuss obligating $200,000 in CRA funds to the Rails to Trails project.
And Sue Weller is here to present.
Okay.
Good evening.
Good
Sue
evening.
Weller. Good to see you all. I've kind of been overseeing this Rails to Trails project, and I don't know if you're aware, but about maybe 4 weeks ago, the county commission kind of decided they weren't going to fund the rail corridor, the acquisition of the rail corridor. While I was gone on vacation, a lot of citizens appeared before the county commission at another meeting, brought some information to them that they were unaware of, and they have decided that they're going to reconsider the acquisition this coming Tuesday at 5 o'clock. And it's the first thing on the agenda for them at the 5 o'clock meeting. That's just August 8th. One of the things that we're looking at in order to emphasize, if you will, to the county is that the city of High Springs is very, very supportive of this project, but also that we are willing to spend some funds towards the acquisition of this property. It's my understanding from our manager that from the city of High Springs side, not the CRA side, but the city of High Springs side, that we're looking at providing up to $300,000 for that, towards that. The actual cost is, well, it was 3.5. The CSX has reduced that cost to 3.1, I think it is. Yeah. Jeff Hazel is here from the county as well to provide some information. But the 3.1 plus the 200 and some odd thousand for the closing cost brings the actual cost from the 3.5 down to $3.3 million. And the county is really looking for about $500,000 coming from High Springs to go towards that. $300,000 from the city, and the other $200,000 would be from the CRA. Now, when we say $200,000, it would be less than that, because when you take the 13 miles of corridor and divide that by the cost, the 3.3, you're really, in our area, is about 0.4 of a mile that covers in the CRA area, and we would want to make sure that the money we spend from CRA is only auditory, is, you know, audit-wise, is within the CRA money. So if you divide that up and try to figure out how much money it would be really about $110,000 if I'm figuring this correctly. So I understand this is sudden, so did not know that the budget was coming before you tonight and had been allocated evidently for your approval tonight. If we are unable to let the county know that we're willing to put some money up towards this, then I seriously think that we're going to lose this corridor. And if we lose this corridor, then we can't get it back. One of the things that the county was unaware of, and it was that you could not purchase as part of the corridor, because we were thinking that if they weren't willing to put the money up, then maybe we could purchase part of the corridor. Under the federal act that allows you to rail bank the corridor, you have to bank the whole corridor. You can't parcel it out. So I'm here, and I think there's a couple of people, at least one or two other people here, that are here to try to talk to you, or to talk to you about the importance of this, to see if the CRA can, in fact, budget this money. The closing has to be in December, I think December 15th, for this to go through, without it having to be reappraised and then possibly the amount going up. I think Jeff can tell you a little bit more information about the actual value of the land, if that would help. And I think Christine is here to talk to you a little bit about that.
You're looking at a lump sum payment, or is it spread out over a amount of years, or is $200,000? You saying we got to allocate that this year?
I think you'd have to allocate it for the new fiscal year. And that's why I'm saying up to 200, because I really don't. I seriously doubt it'd be 200,000.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is Jeff Hayes. I'm the Transportation Planning Manager for Alachua County, and I've been working on this project for a few years. I think to answer the member's question, I think what we would probably need to do is to have some sort of interlocal between the county, the city, and the CRA to allocate whatever monies are being proffered by the city and the CRA. There's a possibility that it could be extended out over a longer period of time. I think the process would be maybe the county would be willing to put the money up at the closing to close the deal, if there was an interlocal on getting, reimbursed that portion over some period of time, I think that would be doable. I mean, what we're really talking about for the county using is wild spaces, public places money for the bulk of this acquisition. And so it's the 8-year time period. So
Well, the reason I'm asking is because my understanding, and you guys correct me if I'm wrong in this one here, but we've obligated a lot of the wild spaces money this year to property that we're buying in the High Springs. So we've already obligated. Courtney, chime in. So that money's pretty much been obligated. So then we're saying that you need to go into the city's budget and we need to find $300,000. Because the wild space money, my understanding, most of it has been obligated.
Well, you always have the possibility to bond out your wild spaces money, and that to get a bond on the wild spaces money. That's what some communities do instead of waiting each year to collect the wild spaces money. If they've got a big project that they want to take care of in the beginning, then they go ahead and they get a bond. They build their civic center, whatever it is, and then because it's a secured source and it's been voted on, and then when you get that money every year, you pay on the bond. So I don't think that you'd be looking at having to go into your general fund, and in fact, I don't think under wild spaces you even could go into your general fund and pay yourself back with wild spaces money. I think I'd have to look back in it, but I don't think you could do that. I think you would have to be in a position that you were bonding it out, and then you could pay back that with wild spaces money.
And I can say that's what the county, with our rec projects and our conservation land projects, that I know for a fact that we're planning on bonding a good portion of the wild spaces money to get started building some of those projects.
Yeah, I was going to say also that, in addition to the CRA money, that $300,000 I was talking about from the city side, that was would be from the wild spaces public places, but it's a possibility the same thing could be done with that $300,000. Is that the county could, if the county put, like you said, up front the money, then the city just says to the county, okay, as our money comes in, you just keep it, rather than it coming to us for that. So I don't know.
That's just the city money, right, Sue? I mean,
Yeah, that's not the CRA, that's the city money, right?
Right, because I know there's several projects that we have that we would have to reevaluate. I think you'd have to look at from a budgeting standpoint, how much do you need, and
And I just wanted to say one more thing. I just wanted to reiterate Sue's characterization that the support of this project by the city and the CRA, I think is probably the key element to closing this deal for the county commission. I've sort of gotten that message loud and clear. So, the time period that we have to go after this corridor is somewhat finite, so I think that's an important thing just to sort of reiterate.
Explain for me I've been around here for a while, and I was fortunate enough to sit next to the former mayor, so hopefully some of her knowledge rubbed off. But for people who are watching or so forth, now I'm a pretty sarcastic individual, you got me. Why should we spend $500,000 for this rails to trail thing? What is the potential cost benefit to the city for this investment?
Right. That's a great question. And this sort of brings some new information to the story as well. Okay. But we've been working with the state to have this corridor put into the state plan.
Corridors where?
The corridor goes from Santa Fe River to downtown High Springs and a little past downtown to the east. There's a small stub to the east. And then it goes south 3/4 of the way to Newberry is where it ends with the acquisition we're talking about today. And then there's a very likely possibility that the next section will get abandoned in the near future, which will be able to connect it down to Newberry and then west to Trenton and the Nature Coast Trail. So we have applied, and I've on strong authority got the information that it likely will be staff recommended for that corridor and actually going north to the Olino Trail, the Olino to Fort White to Ichtuckney, to Bradford Trail, to be able to get that on the state map, which is a key Office of Greenways and Trails Priority Trail Network map, which is a key element to getting state funds to construct those paths. So this investment by the county, the city, and the CRA it's definitely a significant amount of money to acquire the corridor, but then I'm fairly certain that we're going to be very competitive to get state money to actually construct the corridor, which is a larger portion of the cost. And maybe Kristen, I know, follows the statistics on how important that is, especially for the way the city of High Springs markets the ecotourism and the wonderful natural jewels and the bed and breakfasts and the restaurants that you have here in downtown in the CRA, to be able to bring visitors and give them different ways to recreate around the area, to connect to Olino, have campers, bike down for a lunch at the great outdoors, or then eventually be able to go from the Santa Fe River through downtown, and then onto the Post Springs Trail, which we're about to construct with state money on Post Springs Road to go out to Post Springs. So I think ultimately it's going to be a great benefit to the city. And so that's my pitch, but we've been working on that, and I feel very confident that we'll be able to get state money for the construction, so that this is an investment in the acquisition of the corridor, and then we'll be able to leverage some state money for construction of the trail.
Good evening. My name is Kristen Young. I'm Vice President of Gainesville Citizens for Active Transportation, and I'm a cyclist with the Gainesville Cycling Club. I'm an advocate for trails. I've been advocating for this particular trail since 2014, but my interest is in our regional trail system. The state has recognized the importance, the economic importance of trails in the state of Florida. You might have heard of the Coast to Coast Connector from Pinellas to the East Coast. That's a strong focus of the state right now, but other trails are getting money. We received money from the Sun Trail program, which is a new program. I believe in 2015, the legislature passed that. We received the Alachua County has received some funding to construct some trails, and I'm hoping that will be even more in the future. And to put this in perspective, my dream is to have a cycling tour that springs, rivers, and seas, starting in High Springs, visiting the springs, and then out west, the Archer Braid Trail, the UF Greenway Trail, the connectors in downtown Gainesville, the Gainesville Hawthorne Trail. There's a gap between Hawthorne and Interlochen that is programmed by the state to have a multi-use trail. And if we can just bridge that, the Interlochen to Palatka, that opens up the whole state for connections for trails. You might not realize this, but High Springs is an alternative route for the southern route for the long distance touring. I forget the name of it, but we have tourists come in every day through Gainesville. Even from around the world, they like Florida because it's warm in the winter and flat. No hills and mountains here. But to give some statistics, outdoor recreation, as you know, High Springs, you probably all know this is a huge industry in Florida. $38.3 billion a year, nearly 330,000 jobs. And to focus on trails in Orange County, there are 3 trails that connect, and there was an economic study done on them in 2010, and they found that those 3 trails support 516 jobs and put $42.6 million into the local economy. 25 million residents and tourists participate in bicycling every year in Florida, and apart from tourism, trails actually add value to new homes, and they're the number one amenity that new homeowners are looking for when they move into a community. So I like to say because the trail will be fun. That's why I want it, but there is a strong economic, especially with High Springs. It goes right hand in hand with what you already offer. So I encourage you to do what you can, and I will be at the County Commission meeting on Tuesday too. So thank you.
Thank you.
I think that we have to look at this as a vision, a future vision, and I understand that how what this means as to what you've already had looked at doing for next year. But unfortunately, just because of circumstances with the county and how things have developed, we're at this point where we have to say we're going to do it. If we don't do it, then those lands become available, and we don't know, some of those lands will revert back to whoever the owners were, or to their heirs, and then there are others that they sell off, and we don't know what that would happen. And that whole section, at least certainly coming through High Springs, through the river, to me anyway, is something as a vision that I think would just be fantastic for High Springs, both economically, it's just something I think that we really, as a city, needs to look visionary-wise to look at. So, whatever you do tonight, I would also ask if someone at all could be from the commission to try to be there on Tuesday night in support. I'll be there, but it would be nice if one of our commissioners could be there too. Thank you.
Tuesday night,
Yes.
the 7th, you said?
The 8th, at 5 p.m. at the County Commission chambers.
Any questions?
What's the difference between item 2 and item 3?
So
I mean, I'm assuming they're tied
That's my
together.
problem. That's my mistake. I didn't
Well,
realize.
you're new at this.
Yes. I didn't realize that I had not seen the agenda, and I did not realize it was on the agenda already. And I said, put it on. I need to talk to
Okay,
them.
I just wanted to make
So
sure.
2 and 3 are really the same.
I have to let you know, I have not looked at this agenda item. It was put on without my notice. So I have no information on this agenda item whatsoever. And so from that standpoint, I just cannot recommend it because I have no documentation as to what the $200,000 would get. I've been talking to the county, and I was not aware that they were requesting the CRA to put up that money at that time.
Any questions or comments?
How soon? It's like
How
pronto,
soon do you
right?
need to know?
So I did a really quick look at our budget for next year. We would have to, in order to save for next year, basically cut everything else that has not been designated besides the sidewalks and the farmers market pavilion in order to put it. It would be our entire revenue for next year.
I can show you what I pulled off of the county agenda for Tuesday, and I just had this sheet, and it is there. It's the information on the appraised value and what the total obligation, and then at the bottom, an asterisk that they have showing High Springs and the CRA acquisition funds, just so that you see what they're going to be seeing. And I can tell you that that's how I came. That 120,000 is how I came up. And Jeff, you can tell me if I'm all wrong on that way I maybe handled that. The 13 miles divided by the total cost per mile, and we're 4/10 of a mile, then that should be the approximate cost of that.
In terms of the value of the property within the CRA area, I did an analysis today. I'll provide them. I wish I should have brought more copies for you, but I'll provide them to you. The acreage that's being put forward by CSX is close to just about 6 acres within the CRA area. And based on the appraisal that we had run when we started this process, and High Springs was put in some of the money towards the appraisal, if you'll recall, with the Trust for Public Land and the county, that property is actually the most valuable, of course, in the entire corridor. Most of the corridor is rural property, south to Newberry. The most valuable property, obviously, is the property that's here in downtown High Springs that was, zoned commercial. So if you look at that 6 acres, the appraisal had High Springs, the commercial area in High Springs, which most of that is near. Obviously, it's not zoned commercial now, but the over-the-fence appraisal showed it being about $100,000 an acre land value in this area. So about 6 acres, that goes up to $600,000. So I think that's one of the rationale going up to saying up to $200,000 or having some interlocal agreement or some intent to enter into an interlocal agreement if you were willing to do that. Even if the contribution was phased out over some length of time, I think would be helpful for next Tuesday. So I'll just throw that out here, and I'll provide you this. That's just the sheet from the appraisal of the property value.
Did I understand to say that the CRA couldn't bond out or could?
Well, the CRA doesn't have any wild spaces money.
Okay.
So the bonding question I thought that Commissioner Jamison was asking about was the wild spaces money designated for the city
Right.
Of High Springs. So for this, my concerns are, and I appreciate the ingenuity of figuring out and everyone understanding that the CRA cannot purchase property that's outside of the area. So if this is something that you were willing, that you wanted to move forward with, and I understand that they need an answer right away, I feel like it would have to be a yes, we're interested in this, with the caveat that we have to research and confirm that the CRA can help purchase property that includes property outside of the CRA district. So it makes sense what they're saying, that they're piecing out and saying, these are the 6 acres that are within the CRA, and that portion is X amount of dollars, and that's what we're seeking from you. But I just would like the opportunity to research that. And also, the statute does say that you're allowed to use CRA funds to purchase property. This would not be in the CRA name, so I would just want to confirm that you could use CRA funds to help purchase property that would not be an asset of the CRA.
Would it be the counties that would be under the county?
I think they're going to put it in that they're going to deed it over to the county.
Yes, it would be. It'd be the county.
Right. So again, it's not a no from legal. It's just kind of an asterisk that I want to make sure you're not committing funds, because we certainly don't want to get to December or sometime later and all of a sudden. Go ahead.
So you obviously, let me clear what you're saying. So you sit there and the CRA funds, we're going to obligate CRA funds on this money, but then we have no control over that land. It becomes county land.
That's right. Mm-hmm.
Right. Now, they were talking about...
That's what you'd have to look into.
Right. So I know that the statute says that the CRA can purchase lands within the CRA. This isn't you purchasing. This is, I mean, you're helping purchase, but it's not in your name.
Right.
And so I don't know that that prohibits you from doing this. I just want to check so that we know. Now, there was talk of an interlocal agreement with everyone, and that might be enough to fix it. That says the property is in the county's name, but we have a tri-party agreement between the city, the county, and the CRA, and these are the conditions of ever getting rid of the land. These are the conditions of what can go on the land. These are the conditions of who does improvements, who puts in the trails, who puts in the flowers, things like that, who maintains it, which gives you some level of control over the property. So I apologize. I'm just not ready tonight to give you an opinion on this. So if the decision is to move forward or to indicate to the county that the CRA is willing to put up funds, we're just going to need to confirm that.
But back to my question, can the CRA, as the city can do, bond out so that it's...
No.
We would have to pay the
I mean, yes, in
$200,000.
general, that's something the CRA could do. No, it's not something you could do right now.
So we would have to come up with this $200,000 flat.
Well, I think what you do is you would do an agreement. You basically say, like an IOU thing, we do like a 5-year, and we would commit so much money over a period of time, and the county would have to say.
Right. If the county is just looking for the commitment from you, the county has easier access to funds than you do. So if They might just be looking for, yes, we're committed, yes, we're going to pay you this money, and we're going to pay you $10,000 a year over 10 years. We're going to pay you $20,000 a year over 5, whatever number that might look like, because they might can appreciate that coming up with that money out of your budget would be hard.
I think that would be doable. I think the point made is that, we have the money from wall spaces, public places to close. Part of the initial hesitation on the county commission that was stated by some of the commissioners was, well, if we're putting this money in, it's taking away from some of the other projects that we have. But ultimately, if the answer is through the term of the wall spaces, public places, is really not, because the CRA is going to make that whole. I think that would be completely doable, and we can work with your staff on that if it's acceptable to the agency.
And the problem is we have 2 members missing who don't get a chance to give their opinion.
I just think that's a lot of money to ask you to commit to, Johnny, off the spot.
Right? Yeah. Right now,
To me, it is. Especially when you put all these other things in place already, and you pretty much are going to have to let most of them go.
Yes.
If you decide that you want to do this, but they need an answer right now. You don't have time to go through this and see it through and think it.
Yeah, and like I said, I have no information.
We got to know right now.
Well, if I may, if you can in the letter basically say that we are agreeing to this provided that the money can be it's $20,000 a year or whatever, then that wouldn't hit your budget for having it all at one time. So you're not saying we're going to give you the $200,000 or the $120,000, whatever it is, up front. But we are committing that if you're willing to do this over time, then we're willing to do it. I think you could word your letter that way, and that way it's not where you're socking it to your current projects that you have allocated, not all of them anyway.
What was your caveat you said, Courtney, on the letter? You said yes, but then you said, what did you say?
I wanted to make sure that you could contribute to the purchase of a property, 1, that included lands outside of the CRA district, and 2, that you could contribute to property that would not be in the CRA's name or the city's name.
Yeah, that's another issue I have too. Oh, please.
And Madam Chair, I walk up music.
You walk up the music. I mean, the former mayor didn't even get that.
Yes. Mr. Booth, I'm in the middle of the CRA meeting. I only answered when I saw your name. I thought you had something to contribute. I'll talk to you later.
He's not watching it.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, he's sitting at home watching our meeting.
I only answered when I saw it said Ed Booth.
Madam Chair, I think the issue of ownership, I don't think is something that's out of the question, quite frankly. Ultimately, we have what the county has right now is a contract to purchase from TPL, Trust for Public Land, who is purchasing from CSX. It's the arrangement that they have. But ultimately, that might be a solution. I think, our goal, and just so it's clear, the use of the property via the rail banking statute, the reason we can keep the corridor whole through this process is that it has to be a rail trail, multi-use bicycle and pedestrian trail, just like the Hawthorne Trail. And so that's really the only caveat, and really the only use the county can use the property for. And so it's not out of the question that even within the city or the CRA that at some point in the process we could transfer ownership potentially. I don't think the county has a real desire necessarily to own. There was a strong discussion. They'd love it to be ultimately the city of High Springs and the city of Newberry, since about 90% of the length of the trail is within the two city limits. there was a lot of discussion about why is the county this involved in it, but we have the resources to get through this process, so that was the answer. But I don't think that's a deal killer. Honestly, if even tonight, if there's some statement of the willingness to work towards some arrangement, I think that would be valuable. I understand it's going cold to staff and to you, and that's not a comfortable position to be in with that amount of money. I know it's not insignificant, but some statement of support and the thought process to be, have a monetary contribution, if after the attorneys review the things that they've mentioned today, I think would be helpful for the county commission to make it easier for them to support the purchase next Tuesday.
And I would like to just let you know that we did have appropriated $10,000 to this project that was from last year that would be reappropriated again this year. That's already in our budget.
So
we are supporting it, but
100 to go.
Yeah, 190 to go.
She said 110.
Well, she's hoping to get down to 100.
And I am concerned that we don't have a firm number at all.
That's what concerns me, and I guess because I'm new to this, I'm nervous about the 200, and I don't know about the 300,000. Did you say you talked to the manager?
My understanding is from the manager that there's, from the Wild Spaces Public Places money, there's $300,000 for that, to be used for that. And if you remember when I know I don't think you were on the commission, but when we did the original project, identified the original projects for Wild Spaces Public Places, we identified the rail corridor money for that to be purchased with that money.
The thing that would, and I guess the thing that we would have to check with Jennifer, I guess, is that we're purchasing that land now. So I don't know if that money's been shifted. We're purchasing that High Springs, for the
Right.
So you're using Wild Spaces for that?
Yeah.
I think we did.
So I don't know if that money, I'm just saying, from an accounting standpoint, Sue, is all I'm saying. Is I want to make sure, because I know you get it each year. It's like 300 each year for 7 years.
I think something like that. Yeah, for 8 years.
So I'm saying you could do, I'm just saying you could do the same thing. You could come in there and you could say 50,000 for 6 years.
Right.
Or something. Because I know we were looking at some lighting, we were lighting at the ballparks, but I know the majority of this first one, I thought, because we were getting matching county funds, something for the purchase to do the park. There was.
Well, I'm sorry to interrupt. For the Wild Spaces money, you have two sources coming in. You have your kind of statutory share that comes in every year, and then the county had also earmarked about $3 million that was split equally among the cities in a matching grant. And I believe that the purchase of the High Springs Spring is the joint project you're doing with the county, that whatever you put up to a certain dollar amount, the county is matching that. So but that's in addition to your annual Wild Spaces money.
Right.
That was a separate pot. I mean, it's all Wild Spaces, but it was a kind of a separate pot.
It's a matching type of thing, right, to go towards the purchase of the property.
Correct.
Yes.
But that money, I believe, is coming from the grant with the county.
Yeah.
You still have your allocation of your yearly Wild Spaces money.
Okay.
I think. I haven't seen the accounting on that, but that's...
Yeah. So, and again, whatever letter that would go to the county, if it has to, depending on the accounting, would say, county's going to put the money up front, and as that money comes in, you just, of that $300,000, you just don't give it to us. Or if part of that money is being used to purchase the High Springs Spring, then that money comes in, and then maybe the year after or whatever, then that they start getting their money for this.
I mean, for this one, why couldn't you write a letter and basically say we're in all favor for it? However, prior to committing, we want to check on these things here, and we need a better accounting of what's going on. We're in favor of it. We want to see it done. We'll do everything we can, but we need these questions answered, and we need to do an accurate accounting of the funds. And therefore, we've put the caveat in there saying, yep, we're all in. If we can find this deal, we can prorate this money out. If we can do an interlocal, if we can do these things. To be honest with you, and the reason I asked on the money thing is the cost benefit down the road is, I agree. We so I won't say it. You invest
I think if that's your direction to
I'm
staff,
one
then
person.
I think that if the direction from the CRA board tonight, I think that, and I'm not sure if they're just looking for one letter from the city, and if so, I think that your executive director, your manager, and if they want my assistance, myself are happy to draft a letter with that. I think that given all of those issues in there, I think that the former mayor's advice is probably good, that somebody is there from the city to express. It sounds to me like they're really just looking for a commitment right now, especially with this date coming up. So I think someone would need to be there so that they see from an elected official that, yes, the commitment is there.
Amanda, excuse me, do you have any reservations, or I know they kind of caught you off guard too, and
Very much, and I think county staff maybe needs to talk to each other a little bit better. Just saying that I've been in touch with other county departments, and they did not mention this once. In fact, we have a meeting scheduled for the 17th, and they did not mention any number. They did say they would want the CRA to partner with them on this, but there was definitely no $200,000 thrown out, or that it needed to be by a certain date or anything like that. So I do have reservations. I don't want us to commit to $200,000 or up to $200,000 without knowing what we're getting. I just feel like it's not responsible with the money to say, yes, we guarantee we're going to put up to $200,000. We don't know what we're getting. We don't know what the terms are. We don't know anything, but we are definitely in and doing it. I have strong reservations against that because that's a lot of money.
Well, I think the question that has to be answered, is it 200,000 or is it 120? I think somebody should, I'm just saying, this is why you put the caveat in the thing, and you say depending on what the accounting and the numbers do. And if they come back and let's say it is 200,000, well, then we may sit there and say, when are you doing it for 200,000? And I'm just talking, but 120, $10,000 a year for 10 years? I know that's not 120, so don't get on it. I know that, Sue.
It's good interest.
If you invest the money in this way here, and I don't know if we can do it, I think it's at least worth looking into. If we're going to invest that type of money into the city, to me, that is a better investment than replacing somebody's awning.
I agree.
Or replacing, and this is nothing against anybody, we've done it. The money coming from the CRA to benefit the city as a whole in something like this at $10,000, we call it a year, to me is a better investment than somebody using the money to paint their house or to put windows. That's been my objection on the deal. So I see this as a benefit, but we also have to have those questions answered.
Exactly.
For me personally, I would want to know, what is the exact cost to us, to the CRA? First, that's what I want to know. What is the exact cost? Can you purchase it? Just like what we were talking about. But I think if you send the letter and we say, dependent upon these questions being answered and able to do it, then we haven't committed to anything. We're just basically saying we're all in. We got to have a little bit more information. I think all the county wants to know is if we can work out the kinks, if we can do something, that we're a viable partner. I think it is a worthy project to not dismiss. I think it's a worthy project to at least let's find out what the financial obligations are before we say no. I don't know how the city's going to work, because I don't think you can speak for the city because we don't have a commission meeting. So I don't know I don't know how we can do the 300,000 or how that can be rectified by Tuesday. I don't know. Because the city manager can't obligate that type of money in a letter without direction from the council. He can't do it. So I don't know, from a city standpoint, I don't know how we commit the city when we're not there, because he can't obligate us in a letter without having direction from the council. So I see the city obligation right now more of a technical issue than the CRA. Because we can't even send you a letter from the city because this is the CRA. So, I mean, there can be nothing coming from the city right now because we don't meet till next Thursday.
I'd have to go back and look at the minutes, but I feel like as a commission, you previously adopted or approved a project list for wild spaces. So if you've done that, and there's a dollar amount earmarked, then your city manager could send a letter and factually say the commission has previously earmarked X number of dollars in support of the Rails to Trails project, the acquisition, whatever. I'll need further direction from my board as to the logistics of payment and how that works. But again, I don't remember. I know that it's been
we talked about
discussed.
it.
You've definitely discussed it. I remember seeing a project list.
Well, I know it was on there because
it was on the list.
Oh, it was definitely on the list, but I feel like that you approved that list at meetings. So if he said something,
I don't know if we put dollar amounts in
like that, the county at one point had required dollar amounts. So I think that list probably
well, then let's
has
see
it.
If we got it. I mean, if we got that, then he could write the letter and the vague letter, but somebody's going to write the letter.
Right.
The attorney.
Mr. Walker would be happy to draft you a letter.
Okay. So I'll make a motion that the CRA write a letter of support dependent upon the questions brought forth regarding property ownership and use and financial questions, specifically the total dollar amount, and then any other financial questions that you two would come up with that you feel need to be answered.
And I would like to clarify that you do not want to include a dollar amount that we're willing to contribute at this time.
I want.
Okay.
I don't think so. For me personally, I want to know what they're going to do. If it's $200,000, now you're talking. I mean, if it's the full $200,000, now that's just that to me that's a different ballgame. 110, 120, yeah, maybe 200,000 won't be for everybody else. But I agree, I would want it, but I would just say pending property questions, financial deal, actual financial obligation. And there again, for me, a $10,000, $15,000 out of what we do a year to do this on here, I mean, personally, is a heck of a lot better investment on that as opposed to, I'll keep my mouth quiet.
Okay.
Okay, I'll second that motion as long as we are all clear that we are not making a set in stone commitment here, that we're looking for information.
Well, it's been moved and seconded. What Scott said. All those in favor?
That's what I used to do.
Aye.
Aye. Scott.
I did.
Oh, did you say aye? Okay. Motion is passed 3-0.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item of business, number 3, is the same as 2, so we will skip to number 4. Review and consider proposed 2017-2018 CRA budget.
Okay, so at your direction, I will just present what was,
Right.
and what we were going to have. And if that needs to be changed, we can adjust it. We're running short on time, but we do have a little bit of time. So the new format you see is in the city's budget format. That way, when it comes to the workshop, you will have the exact same budget instead of my budget worksheet, but I will highlight there's just a very, very few differences from what it was at the workshop. The first difference is in the TIF. It increased by about $200 from each one, so we're projecting this next year it'll be $81,765.
Where's this at?
I'm just about to say, where are you?
One of one. Right after the...
Page 101.
Okay.
TIF, TIF, it's the second line down there, Warren County TIF.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So it's...
I'm here.
Yeah. It's actually very good that Jennifer and I both did separate calculations and we were only $200 off, which I'm like,
Really?
woohoo. Yeah, that's really good.
All right.
So that increased by 200. If you turn the page to the next one, which is another one of one, they're all one of one for some reason. I don't know. And on the worksheet, we had separated out the one-time 3% from the salaries, regular salaries. Jennifer wanted to roll them all in. And also for the regular salaries, not administrative, based on the Evergreen study, they're recommending that each of the lowest paid employees get an additional 3%. That would be an ongoing thing. So it is an additional... it raises it a little bit to...
Excuse me. What do you mean an ongoing 3%?
So it would be, unlike the one-time 3%, it would be a 3% on top of that. So that would be their regular salary. So instead of our CRA guy making $11 an hour, he makes $11.33 an hour. That's what I was told the city would be following. So
No.
that's what I was told to put in here. Okay.
No.
Okay.
That's not what I'm...
Okay.
One-time payment.
Okay. So then I can
That's me.
revert.
I mean, this is the deal, but this whole
Okay.
thing we've talked about is this is a one-time, if I make $70,000 and I got a 3%, I get a $2,100 one-time lump sum payment. Done. I make $11. Whatever that comes out to annual salary, say it's $15,000. Then I'm going to get a $450 one-time payment. Done. Let me go, but that's been my recollection since we started this thing, because when we start doing this, when you split it in salaries, it's going to start affecting your insurance, your FICA, and everything else that you commit is when you put it in there. One-time payment's not going to impact that.
Okay. So do you want it still separated out on the
I want it
budget?
I do.
Okay.
And I don't know, we got two other people, but I mean, that was what I thought was our decision when we did this, so it would not be in the salaries, which would then affect FICA, health insurance, and everything else, that this would be pulled out separately.
Okay.
I mean, ladies, I don't mean...
So by giving them the 3% in a one lump sum, you're not increasing the values of all this other
Right.
benefits that go along with it.
Right.
Okay, you just got this lump sum in your hand and that's it.
That's my understanding. Now, they can do it because you're not,
Yeah.
it's not within the deal, because FICA and everything like that is based on your salary.
Right.
Right.
And so your salary stays at $70,000.
Okay.
But you got this extra money
you got
to do
extra
as you
money.
please.
And I'll be the bad guy, and when we do the council, I'll make the same
Okay.
comment. I want it the same, this is me, I thought that's what we agreed upon as a group, was to separate them out.
Yeah, one-time payment.
Right, at one time, so there was no question as to whether or not my salary went up.
One-time payment.
Yes.
Well, this is the city's budget that I'm presenting, so you guys might want to watch it when it comes to the city, because this is in your format that Jennifer put it into. So that would change that amount to $11,700. Well, no, we would revert back to how it was in the my worksheet, which, if you would like, I can put it up on the screen so you guys can see what the difference would be. Do you want to?
What do you mean revert back?
Well, it won't revert back, but
Just changing the numbers, right?
right. It would look, if you want it separated out, it would look like what I gave you at the workshop instead of this one here. but the numbers don't really change. It's
The
just
number's not going to change.
Right.
It's going to change a little bit within your FICA,
right,
retirement,
right.
life and health insurance, because those are based on
Right.
salary figures, I believe. So it's going to be a little
bit less. Okay, I will get with Jennifer, and we will make those changes. Okay. So that was it with salary. If you go to the next page, which is again 1 of 1, and if you look at contractual services, City of High Springs, you'll see that it increased by $10,000. That's for community policing, since they are a City of High Springs department. We would have a separate contract with them that would separate how much we are willing to contribute. It would say how much per hours, what events we would be contracting with them for, and these would only be new events that they do not cover currently. We would not be allowed to pay for any events that they already do. So that's why you see an increase there. If you go down to operating supplies, which is, you will see that it's $2,200. It was $1,200. That includes the computer. I had separated it out as a technology charge, so that changed. And then that's all that changed in the operating expenditures. If you go to capital outlays and look at downtown sidewalks, that is the what we had put in for the current project and the future project. So if we wanted to do some next year, it's all rolled into one. And then the only other change is machinery and equipment. That is for half the air conditioned unit over there. And that is all the changes that were made to the CRA budget.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions?
With what we've already clarified, I'm okay. I don't see anything else. Anybody else? So, you want a motion from us?
Yes, to recommend this to the city.
All right, I will make a motion that this proposed budget be forwarded to the city.
I'll second it as long as it's with the suggested changes.
I should have said that.
That's all right.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
You got it.
It has been moved and seconded that we approve the 2017-2018 CRA budget with the proposed changes. All in favor? What?
No. Where's the 10,000 for the?
It is in, let me see what category it is. We have it in improvements other than building. So we have $32,440 in it.
That 10,000 is earmarked?
Yes, 10,000 of that.
Percent.
Yeah.
There?
It's earmarked in mine, but it's rolled up into the one.
Okay.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Passes 3-0. And so passes. You may take it to the commission. Item number 5 is discuss and consider designating the farmers market as a CRA program.
All right, so there has been changes to the way labor laws are, and we will no longer be allowed to have our farmers market manager be a contractor. She will need to be an employee, and in order for me to continue supervising her as such, it needs to be, the farmers market would need to become a CRA program at this time. So what I included is a list of, I just did a real quick search of CRAs in Florida that have farmers markets. It's a very common practice to have your CRA oversee your farmers market. In fact, if a city has a farmers market, it usually is overseen by a CRA. So that's what I put in there for your consideration.
This is a new law, you're saying this requiring this?
Yeah, and maybe Angela might be able to answer more questions if you have it, as far as why. I just know she can't be a 1099 employee or whatever they're considered anymore, that she has to become a city employee or CRA employee in this case.
I guess I'm wondering if we missed the boat somewhere. Since you're saying it's a new law, but at the same time, you got 10 different places here listed. Did you say if you've done this already?
No, these are CRAs that actually started the farmers markets. So they've always been under their.
Those are ones that are, they're not by the law.
Yeah, the question is on her employment status, and it's something that we've debated here since we've had a farmer's market, is whether or not this person was going to be an independent contractor or an employee.
Okay.
And the advice is that this individual is an employee, and it's not, even as an independent contractor, it wasn't a 40-hour-a-week position, so this would be a part-time position. There wouldn't be benefits.
Right, and this would not cost the CRA anything. The farmers market is self-supporting as it is now, and we would base her per hour on what has been brought in this year for vendor fees.
Is she aware?
Yes, she is aware of it, and she's actually kind of excited about it because it takes a load off of her, and she needs a few more Social Security credits, and that'll add to it. Yeah, so she's happy about it.
Okay.
Well, let me say, I'm not prepared to do this yet. Me personally, I'd like to know what the city's viewpoint is, and the city may want to hire the person as a part-time employee. But we have 3 of us here. I'm not ready to change and put the CRA. Nothing. This is not. But it's never been there. I know we talked about it. I think we need all 5 people, and I'd also like to know Mr. Bruce or the city thing, because he may sit there and say, "Well, we'll make that a part-time person and keep it underneath the city managers." I just like the city manager's opinion and the other 2 people. I get where you're coming from. I'm not arguing against it. I guess I'm arguing, putting up a different opinion. I just don't think I'm ready to sit here and say we're going to take this and all of a sudden put it underneath a different entity.
Without more input.
Without more just input from the city manager's views, and the other 2 commissioners. So I would not want to move on this until pose the question to the city manager, and then have the other 2 people make a decision, because I think this is a long-term decision. Who runs it? So that's all. I would table it and until we get city staff's opinion and the other 2 guys here.
Are you in agreement?
Then I'll make a motion that we table this to the next CRA meeting.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Then we'll table this to the city commission meeting, or the next CRA? Well, we'll have to go to the city first and then CRA again. And what's not on this agenda, of course, our next meeting is not going to be for a while anyway. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm. Okay. Oh yeah, we're not in too big of a hurry. Her contract does expire in August, but we can go month to month until it is renewed.
You'll put it on the city agenda? Okay.
I have a question. You say put it on the second meeting in August for the commission?
Yeah.
Is that the week that the League of City Convention? Is it that week?
August 24th, wasn't it?
I thought it was the 17th or something. I don't know. I'm just asking.
The meeting is the 24th, right? The 10th and then the 24th.
Yeah.
That's okay. Okay. Then the convention is the third week then. Okay.
The same week, or?
No, the convention is the week of the 17th.
Okay,
18th.
good. Okay. So, be the second meeting of August.
Mm-hmm.
Next item is discuss and consider approving pursuit of tourism product development grant for the music in the park.
So the Tourism Product Development Grant is a grant through the county to promote events that bring out-of-county visitors for it, and I would just like permission to apply for the grant. This would pay for marketing for music in the park.
Right. I know that's one thing you've been working on hard.
Any discussion?
We don't need to do anything right now. We can just give a consent, right?
That's all
Yes.
we're doing.
Rock and roll.
Very good.
All right.
We like grants.
Yes.
Yes, indeed.
Item 7 is update on James Paul Park Stairs Ramp Project.
Yeah, I sure would like
Yes.
to hear about this.
So there have been some hiccups on this project. I think we have reached a resolution on this project. So there has been some confusion between the contractor and the CRA as to what it could be built. He believed that he could build a ramp there instead of stairs. We met with the contractor, explained it to him that nope, it needs to be stairs. It also, the ramp he built was definitely not ADA compliant, so it has since been removed. Although it'd be fun, you open up the back and
Kids would like it, huh?
oh yeah. So I think we had a good meeting with the contractor, and we met with him, and I think we've come to an agreement. I don't know if Courtney wants to speak any more about that at this time.
Probably not tonight.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Confirm it. And then also going forward, it'll need to be a ramp and not steps because it needs to be ADA compliant. So what you see in your packet are just two renderings of what it possibly could be. I am working with a engineer. He has done the work pro bono for us right now, but it won't come back for you to approval till sometime next year. We have it budgeted for next year for this project.
Who's the engineer?
His name is Marty. Oh, I think it's on here. I think it's on there.
Oh, okay.
It might be in really small letters. It is on there, but it's really tiny. It's Marty. I can't read it.
If you find it, let us know.
It's on the email. His name is, yeah. It's Marty something. He's out of Alachua. And I can never remember his last name.
You see how we went out and got these blueprints to look at this time?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Why did we not do this in the beginning?
Marty Eskridge.
There you go. You can read it? I don't even know where it is, but that is who it is. And yes.
I'll find it before the next meeting, I promise.
Yes.
Go ahead.
And we have learned a lot from this experience, and we will be working a lot closer with the new building official going forward.
But that didn't answer my question.
What was your question? I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question.
Why did we not go out and do this in the beginning before we started the other project?
There was some confusion between the building department and the CRA at that time. We thought we were following what was required, and turns out we probably weren't. So, probably weren't.
Okay, I'll leave it alone.
So that's the update for today. There's nothing for you to vote on or approve or anything.
Okay. Next is the chair report. Excuse me, I have nothing to report at this time. And executive director report.
Yes, it has been very busy, but I'm just going to hit the highlights. We had 2 grants close, Heartstrings and Wisteria Cottage. They have closed on those, so they're looking very nice, especially Wisteria Cottage. I love the way they make it look. So that went well. The other facade grants are all coming along nicely. They have all started the project. Some of them are close to being finalized. So if you haven't taken a look at how they're coming along, I encourage you to do that. Our quilt murals are finished that are going to be going up. and they will be delivered next week. I am planning a unveiling with Susie Clark and the quilting group here, and we will let you know, but it'll be probably the end of August before they have everything signed up. They want to bring in speakers and, make it into a bigger event. I also want to let you know that Folk in the Springs is September 17th, and Michael Loveday has been working very hard on a new website that is for Music in the Park. So it's highspringsmusicinthepark.com. So if you have a chance, take a look at it. It's very nice. It's still, still kind of simple, but all the pieces are there, and he's going to be adding a lot more to it.
That was highspringsmusicinthepark.com.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like I had mentioned, there is a meeting with the county on August 17th to discuss the Rails to Trails project with the partners. This is a staff meeting.
Right. Okay.
So I will be at the county commission next Tuesday. Yeah. I am going to that. So I will be there, but then the staff meeting will be like August 17th, where the different staffs get together and work on it. And then we have our presentation on August 22nd to the county commission, giving them an update as to what we have done, presenting our draft budget at that time as well, and just letting them know how we are doing and getting their feedback. This is part of what was required in the interlocal that we do for 2 years. So we are going and presenting then. Also, I have been asked to present at the Farmers Market Convention on September 11th in Orlando. I will be doing that. They are paying for the transportation and everything. So I will be down there that week. And then Courtney and I will be heading to Daytona Beach, October, somewhere here. I think it's October 17th. We will be heading to present on then too. And then personally, I will be out next week for vacation, and I'm also taking a vacation to Canada Labor Day week. So I will be gone there. And I am also requesting that our next CRA meeting be moved to September 21st. We need to do appropriations at that time. So if we do it later in the month, we won't have to have a second meeting. If we do it on the 7th, when it's scheduled to be done, we will have to have a second meeting to do the appropriations before the end of the month, because I will not have those numbers at that time.
September 21st?
Yes. So it would be the third Thursday. And then also I'd recommend that we don't have an October meeting. By law, we are only required to have meetings quarterly, so we are fine to skip a meeting. And since it would be so close, I'm recommending that we skip that meeting. Okay. And that's all I have.
That's it?
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay.
That's my report.
I will
Then I make a motion that we adjourn this meeting and I can go.
We're out of here.
8:20, yes.